So I see aspiring pilots, they have this query in mind, like in 10-15 years the cockpit are gonna go pilotless. There'll be like self-driving planes and all, so they are like, should I choose pilot as a career? Anyways, the plane's gonna fly on our own in like next 10 to 15 years. So what would be your take on that?
So, as a hello everyone, how are you doing? Here we are on 18th episode of Pilot Podcast. So how have you been doing? The winter is coming up. The Christmas time is on the
Have you
corner.
been watching Game of Thrones?
No,
Winter
is coming.
no.
Game of Thrones ki House of Dragons.
House of Dragon is, I guess, prequel to Game of Thrones.
No, I have not watched it. I haven't got time to watch it yet.
Are you preparing for the winters?
I haven't prepared anything for winters.
Mhm.
But yeah, with respect to flight, whatever preparation we have to do, and that much I know. I have
What all preparation do you have to do for winter?
So we need to be Cat 2, Cat 3 qualified as we fly to the places which are in northern part of India. Visibility goes down there. And I get asked a lot of questions that why in winter in North India there are so many go-arounds. That is because the visibility is low, and if it is not meeting with the minima for landing at that point of time, then you have to, and if you don't sight the runway, then you have to go around. So first of all, if the visibility is below the minimum required visibility for landing, then you can't commence the approach.
Okay.
So at places where the ILS is inoperative, there it's a problem in the morning because the fog sets in.
But you can't land anywhere, right? In that case.
So in that case, if the actual visibility is lower than the required for that approach, then we can't commence the approach.
Correct.
But once we have commenced the approach, and then if you don't sight the runway, even if the visibility is at or above the minimum required,
Correct.
then you have to do a go round.
Correct.
That is the approach ban policy basically.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you have to do the training for Cat A, Cat B categories approaches.
Cat 2 and Cat 3.
Okay.
Cat 3 has category 3 alpha and category 3 bravo.
Okay.
And category 3, why we are
Actually,
and category 3 Charlie as well, right?
we don't have category 3 Charlie in India.
Okay.
Okay.
We have category 3 Bravo, which is the most advanced
Got
in
it.
India.
Okay.
Whether in Delhi or you take Lucknow or the other. Yeah.
But even Bravo lets you auto land, correct?
Yes, Cat 3 Bravo is fully auto land, and any Cat 3 approach is auto land.
Correct.
You need
Okay.
to do auto land mandatorily because the requirement of the visibility is very low.
Correct.
Okay, like for that, of course, depends on the aircraft type and company operational requirements. It varies a lot, so I won't give you the numbers, but the requirement of visibility is less than 100 meters or less than. Yeah, so because of that, if the visibility is above the minimum, you can do it. But in Cat 3, to establish that visual reference with landing and to perform a manual landing is not allowed.
Okay.
In Cat 3
Correct.
conditions. In Cat 2, you can do a manual landing if you have runway in sight. And in Cat 1, you can do manual approach and manual landing anyway. So,
Yeah.
so this Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, these are the types of ILS approaches. And Category 1 ILS approach will let you land even if the visibility is more than 800 meters or RVR is more than 550 meters. So these are the numbers which are the published by the ICAO documents, but for every approach it can vary. So you need to refer to that particular approach for the visibility requirement. So for category 2 ILS approach, it will allow you to land even if the visibility is lesser than Cat 1 up to 300 meters. And for category 3, when the visibility is less than 100 meters, then you can perform the category 3 approach.
Correct.
So basically that is the category depending on what is the equipment installed at that particular airport, whether pilots are qualified, whether low visibility operations are in force. then you can exercise.
Also the aircraft, right? Like is if the aircraft is
Yes,
equipped
of
with
course.
the required.
Yes, yes.
A
the
quick
aircraft should
question,
also.
like in winters, if the actual visibility is equal to minima or slightly higher than minima and you're doing an approach, like the pilot doesn't spot the runway, like don't have the runway in sight, so he or she goes around and
Yes.
then do you do one more approach or you divert to another place?
So the go around, if it is because of not spotting the runway,
Yes.
in such low visibility conditions, because of that,
Hmm.
whatever is the maximum capability of the aircraft and of the pilots, we perform that approach.
Okay.
Let's say at Delhi airport, you are
Hmm.
going in for landing,
Mhm.
and if both pilots are qualified for category 3 approach and landing, and if aircraft is also fit to perform the auto land,
Mhm.
so in that case, we do perform an auto land. We prepare and plan for auto land so that we are prepared for the minimum visibility
Mhm.
for that particular approach. So
Okay.
even if the visibility goes down to that minimum, we can continue and land. There is something called as the auto land where category 3 Bravo approach, wherein there is no requirement to have a visual reference for landing.
Correct.
As long
Okay.
as the actual RVR is above the minimum required, you can commence the approach and go and land. And if in case the pilot does not spot the runway, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Correct.
You are going in for auto land.
Correct.
So let the aircraft continue and land. But if the aircraft's auto land capability is downgraded, which is indicated by various indications in the cockpit depending on the aircraft type, in that case, pilot will have to be prepared. If he spots the runway, then disconnect autopilot and go and land. If he doesn't, then you have to do a go around.
Correct.
Okay.
But it is a very,
Very
very
sensitive.
quick decision. So as a captain, and this approach is only flown by a captain as a PF
Correct.
because of very
Very
prompt
time
and
sensitive.
very,
Yeah.
very time sensitive. It is within less than a second, you have to make a
Disconnect and,
decision,
yeah.
disconnect
Correct.
and
Land
do
the
the approach. Otherwise, there is a possibility. See, whenever you see the runway and you have a chance to go and land, and if somebody is doing a go around, then you miss out on that one approach and opportunity to go and land.
Correct.
Because there are other 50 aircrafts at such busy airport which are
Mhm.
waiting for landing.
Correct.
And if you miss out that chance, you might have to hold. You will wait for your another sequence to land. So that can take even longer time.
That's true.
So the decision at that time is very, very prompt and it should be correct.
There's
we
a
made.
lot to learn for us now. Like
Yes.
the general aviation flying that we used to do is like
Yes, general aviation, I think we had hood, like until we reach our minimas. Like we are
Yeah.
flying under the hood, right? So let's say the minima is 400. So at 400, the instructor will tell us, okay, runway in sight. So at that time, we used to see and land the plane.
Correct.
So we had enough time, I guess, 10 to 15 seconds to adjust the speed and everything as per the approach. Like we are already in the approach part, just we have to put the flaps to landing and then slower our speed to 65
Correct.
knots in the Cessna
Correct.
and then land.
yeah, at minimums.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is a question that airlines pilots I have heard always saying minima, and we have always called it minimums. What's the difference like? Is it the same or
It's minimum.
minimums? Right.
Minimum. Even we call minimum in Airbus terminology as a standard call out at minimum is minimum announced by pilot monitoring,
Okay.
or if in case the radio altimeter
Hmm.
is equipped in that aircraft. Of
Okay.
course, we are
Mhm.
we do have the radio
Okay.
altimeter in the aircraft, which indicates the height above any ground which is
Mhm.
beneath the aircraft. So that will give the automatic call out of minimum.
Correct.
If the minimum is inserted in the MCDU, in the FMGs, then
Mhm.
the minimum call out will automatically come.
Correct.
If it doesn't come, then PM has to give a call out. That is
Okay.
pilot monitoring. I'm sure you know what is pilot flying and pilot monitoring.
Yeah. No. Explain.
Yeah, so in the commercial flying, when the aircraft requires the 2 crew members, that is pilot flying and pilot monitoring. So pilot flying is the one who is doing the primary functions of flying the aircraft, and pilot monitoring is the one who is performing the functions of radio telecommunication, navigation, and monitoring whether the performance of the PF is correct and the duties are performed correctly.
The
And duties.
terminology,
Go ahead.
the terminologies which you just mentioned. So I don't know if you have noticed, like while playing the flight simulator.
Yeah.
So when you're landing, so it says approaching minimums, then 50,
yeah.
40,
Yeah.
30,
Correct.
20,
Correct.
retard. So that's what she was talking about, right?
Yeah.
So
The minimums and the minima.
those are the radio altimeter callouts.
Okay.
Yes. Those are radio altimeter callouts.
So that's why it's minimums, right? Because of the terminologies.
Yes, it is minimum.
Minimums is minimums.
Okay, now when you talk about minima,
Yeah.
it is related with respect to visibility and the ceiling visibility as well as the DH.
That
Both.
exactly was my question. See?
That is minima.
Yeah.
Whereas when you talk about minimum, it is the only decision altitude
Correct.
which is minimum, which is
Okay.
announced.
Got it.
Minima for this particular approach, let's say ILS approach runway for one particular place, let's say Delhi ILS approach runway to it, category 1 ILS approach, its minima is 550 meter visibility or RVR, 550 meters, and the decision
So basically below
altitude is
550
what-
meters, in specific conditions, the aircraft cannot go. Right?
Yes, if the RVR is
Yeah.
below 550 meter, aircraft cannot go. So
Got it.
cannot commence the approach to land. So this is called as minima, which is given in terms of visibility and the DA,
Okay.
Got
decision altitude.
Got it.
And minimum is when you approach that particular minimum.
Got it. Yeah, that was my
That is
question.
high.
Exactly.
Or altitude.
Because in our flying, we have hardly used the word minima, right?
Yeah. So
At least in the
approaching,
US, we haven't used the word. But yeah,
No.
minimum requirements have always been there for the whichever flight, like IFR,
You
VFR,
will
whichever flight
always
that we are
learn-
performing.
You will learn this minima in any particular company minima. Is
Okay.
mentioned. You will have a separate folder, company
it.
minima,
Okay.
where you will have
Yes. it was
whichever
like the school-
airports you will be going to and whichever approaches, it will
Got it.
give you the minimum required visibility and the DA.
Correct.
But that is called as, that entire thing
Okay.
is called as minima folder.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Now
revision.
that-
It's a revision for us.
Now that we spoke about auto land, so pilots can sleep while the aircraft is landing, right?
No, you have to be even more careful in such conditions because it has happened with Singapore
Guys, when I
Airlines.
say these things, it's in joke, okay? It's to lighten up the thing. I do not at all consider that pilot can ever sleep in the cockpit below the 10,000 feet.
But if it's auto
Not
land,
even
then
below
why can't we
10,000.
sleep? It's auto land, right? You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, then we'll also go on the topic of auto land, and
Let me come
then
to that point.
then
So-
taking pilots out of the cockpit and aircraft operate on its own, then all the
Yes.
pilots are jobless and the
So-
world comes to an end. We'll talk about all
Oh my
of
god. Okay. So it has happened with Singapore Airline.
Mhm.
So when the visibility was low and the aircraft was going in for landing in the low visibility conditions, in that case, because the another aircraft on the ground had infringed the critical area,
Correct.
the signals in the approach path got deflected, because of which the aircraft after landing, instead of following the runway center line, it went on one side of the runway and pilot did not correct for it and the aircraft went off the runway.
So it was an auto land.
It was an auto land.
Got it.
So if in case you see whatever the light after landing, if you think the aircraft is going off the runway, we have to be extra careful and disconnect the autopilot and align the aircraft on the center line, because once you have landed and deployed the reversers, there is no way that you are going to go around,
Yes.
because that is a absolutely irreversible action. Once you have deployed reversers, you're committed to continue the landing and till the end of
So
the landing.
that's the reason pilots cannot sleep while auto
Yes.
landing, because if the system malfunctions, they have to take control,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, we cannot sleep.
Either you have to disconnect,
So
and if
this
you
is
see
the sign, right?
so you have to disconnect, and if you see the runway, then continue the approach to land. If you don't sight the runway, then perform a go around.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the sign, right? For
Yes.
to not cross during
Low
got it.
visibility operations.
it's
So
this.
that is the sign on the marking of the taxiway,
Correct.
which you are not supposed to cross.
Okay.
If that aircraft, any aircraft on the ground crosses, then the aircrafts which are on the approach can go off the runway.
Oh.
This is something which has happened,
Correct.
and to avoid this,
Well,
every
the
pilot-
reason for it is because the radio waves that are being emitted from the localizer and the glide slope antennas are actually interrupted and interfered by the aircraft that is parked on the taxiway.
parked or it is taxiing on the
Yeah.
taxiway.
Correct. So not to cross that line when
Yeah, because in such low visibility conditions, since the aircraft gets guidance to land all the way to the runway,
Correct.
the signals are very sensitive
correct.
to any obstruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as of now, we cannot have no pilots in the cockpit. That's what you are saying?
Yes, there are a lot of tests which are happening, and because of which eventually at one point, even though it is safe, but when the malfunction happens,
Correct.
that time things can go haywire.
Correct.
Yes. So I see aspiring pilots, they have this query in mind, like in 10-15 years the cockpit are gonna go pilotless. There'll be like self-driving planes and all, so they are like, should I choose pilot as a career? Anyways, the plane's gonna fly on our own in like next 10-15 years. So what would be your take on that?
So, as a passenger, if you were there as a passenger, would you yourself fly and be there in the aircraft if there is no one in the cockpit?
I mean, not a test flight. It should not be a test flight.
Well, we all know what happened with the 737 MAX, right? When
Yeah.
pilots were taken, like control was taken away from pilots, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Basically, pilots couldn't do anything to it, and it was all machine that was doing it. So, not to talk against it, maybe
No, it
after,
was they were not. They did not apply that procedure.
because they
correctly.
weren't taught about that procedure.
Yeah. But
So how
it was
would they
mentioned
apply?
in one of the whatever in their manual, in the theory, not in the procedures.
Got it.
Uh,
Another thing, yeah, as you rightly mentioned, that would you fly on a plane that doesn't have a pilot? Like, would you put your life on something that you don't know how good is it, right? One thing.
Absolutely.
Second is that for the whole world to have infrastructure that will support automated flights is gonna take years of time.
And it's gonna be expensive as well.
Exactly. Like, not all countries can afford it. Not all states can afford it. Maybe the developed countries, the Western countries, can adapt to automated flights over a period of, say, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. Yeah, something like that. But most other countries, it would be difficult. Like, how would you land on an airport that has ILS inoperational, okay, doesn't have published RNAV procedure, okay, doesn't have any approach, it's only visual approaches going on, okay, right now. How would you train a machine to do that? Like,
There's nothing
Right.
that can be done.
yeah, and it so many times happens, right? Like right now, Hyderabad Airport ILS is inoperational, right? It
The
is.
RGI one. Both, I guess. RGI and Begumpet, both are not
Yeah.
operational.
Both are inoperative. So not in operational, inoperative.
Inoperative.
Yeah, inoperative.
So we know this, that the Hyderabad airports, the ILS is inoperative because we had our IAT check. So we drove 5 hours to Vijayawada, and then we went there. We did 1 hour flight, and then again came back driving 5 hours.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
went one day prior to Nilay's, and then when Nilay's went, we were on a short notice. So they were like, "Okay, come to Vijayawada. We have a flight."
Yeah.
And then we drove there, and some audit was going on at the Vijayawada
Yeah.
airport.
Okay.
So we
couldn't
took-
get the
we couldn't get
AEP.
the EEP on that day.
Okay.
So we had a layover in Vijayawada technically.
Okay.
And then next morning we did the flight, and then we headed back to Hyderabad.
Okay.
So for a 1 hour flight, we traveled almost like 10 hours
Oh, okay. Oh my
because
God.
the ILS was not serviceable.
Chintan
Right.
did like Vijayawada twice.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah. Once you went and then
Yeah.
there was no check
No, I did.
happened.
Yeah,
Okay.
the check
then
happened, and then
He
I
did,
went
but
again there.
he accompanied me
Yeah.
for the next trip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is how it was.
That's great.
So I think these advanced aircraft would eventually be capable of auto taxi, auto takeoff, auto land. Yes, for sure. The aircraft equipment will be
At the moment, there is no auto takeoff or auto taxi yet.
at the moment,
Huh.
but there is still like experiments going on, and I guess Airbus is working on it. Auto taxi, auto land, auto takeoff, all of those things.
Auto land is already there.
Auto land is already there.
Yeah.
But then only on select few airports where the facility is available, Cat 3 Bravo, Cat 3 Charlie, in those airports only, right? Would you do, would an airplane be able to auto land on Cat 1 airport?
Yes. There are
Oh.
some airports where, because there is something called as those selected airports where we do practice auto land, even though the ground is not equipped with category 3 type of ILS equipment. So that is something called as, the aircraft has to undergo the practice auto land once every 30 days. So to maintain the recency of the aircraft to perform auto land.
Okay.
So that is that can be done at those airports which doesn't have the category 3 approach and landing system at the airport. But there are very selected airports, and that airport has to be that airport should be among that list
Correct.
of the airports. That is given in the company operations manual. So that needs to be referred to.
Got it. So for at least, in your opinion, for next 20 to 30 years, pilots would not lose jobs because of the
Yeah, next at least 20
autonomous flights, right?
20 years. Yeah.
My personal belief is that the cockpit, there will be pilots. Like pilots would be needed because the system, right? When the system malfunctions.
No,
I
but-
mean, self-driving cars is a thing because it's on ground.
correct.
When the aircraft is in air and the system malfunctions.
That's true. But again, how did Tesla become a autonomous self-driving car, right? So Tesla was collecting data from all driving vehicles, right? So now assume that, say, XYZ manufacturer takes all the data of currently operating flights and has all that data stored stored on in some big data thing. And AI starts working on it. So see, all the procedures are based upon past incidences, right? And what worked, what did not work. So if AI gets that intelligence from the past incidences and what measures were taken, it is possible. Autonomous flights are possible. 100% autonomous flights are also possible. It can happen, but when? Maybe at least 20 years.
Yeah.
15,
True.
20 years at
True.
least.
True.
Or 30 years. I don't know. And then also, each aircraft life is how much? 20 to 30 years?
So beyond 20 years, then that aircraft is used for cargo operations.
Okay. So the aircraft
So-
that are in operation right now are not autonomous aircraft, okay? So these aircraft itself will stay for another 20 to 30 years. So these aircraft will require pilots.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
absolutely.
So technically we are good for next 20. And they also have orders like 400, 500 aircraft of
Yeah.
order. So until that delivery is done, they'll need pilots
Absolutely.
for that planes.
Absolutely. Yeah, so aircraft that are operational right now would require pilots, and there are at least thousands of aircraft that are being manufactured right now that are with current technology. So at least this generation won't have a problem from whatever autonomous airplanes.
Earlier you mentioned that after 20 years of service of an aircraft, the aircraft is converted into a freighter or a cargo plane. Why is it?
Only pilots' lives are at stake, I guess. I don't know. What's the answer?
So, because yes, that is partially true. And
Yeah,
to
I
save,
mean-
right?
I mean, instead
Yes.
of risking 100 and whatever, so many lives.
186, risking 2 lives.
because over time, the aircrafts are definitely maintained well, so they are airworthy. They are kept airworthy to fly, but the number of malfunctions might increase over time, and there would be more maintenance cost and servicing cost. Not that won't be viable for the company to maintain that plane. So that is one thing, and the other reason is passengers' lives is
And also, are the maintenance requirements for passenger aircraft are more stringent than that of cargo freighter aircraft?
I'm not very sure about this, but for revenue aircrafts, there are certain maintenance requirements, and cargo aircrafts, there are other requirements.
Correct.
So that I need to speak to the aircraft maintenance engineer and get back on this.
Correct. Because even private planes used to have different maintenance requirement, and for higher aircraft it
An
would be for higher aircraft would
Yeah.
have like 100-hour maintenance
Hmm.
won't be required for an airplane that is owned by you, and you are
Yeah.
only flying that. But if you are renting that, then 100 hours maintenance is required, right?
Like in simple terms, if we were flying when we were doing the private private pilot training,
Correct.
and then we shifted to instruments, so both of them required different set of instruments and stuff. So it would be different, but what would be
See, it
different?
depends on a lot on what is the type of operation.
Operation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
like for example, in commercial planes, after every flight, there is one set of maintenance.
Correct.
Okay.
Then, at the end of the day, there is one set of maintenance.
Hmm.
At the end of every certain number
Mhm.
of pressurization cycles, certain number of
Yeah.
landings, there are certain requirements.
Correct.
So we cannot put a number here.
Okay.
It will
Absolutely.
be mentioned
Yes.
on the airworthiness certificate. It will be mentioned and given by the manufacturer
Correct.
and even the local the authorities of that state. So
Correct.
all those requirements need to be met with. So and it will be different for different
Absolutely.
type of aircraft.
Absolutely.
So there is no set particular number for
Correct.
standard for every.
Old planes, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I guess it's only pilots' lives are at stake, so it's okay for pilots to fly old airplane, and passengers basically lesser souls on board. It's not about pilot or passengers, but it's about lesser souls on board, so lesser risk, right? So I think old airplanes are usually going for cargo. Okay.
But the cargo flights have a different schedule to operate, right? Like they mostly they book the airlines, like the cargo airlines. They have slots at midnight, or like all the flights are red eye apparently, because
Majority
yeah,
of
majority.
them, yes. That is because just I'm not comparing, but yes, it is whenever on highways you will see mainly the transport
Mm-hmm.
trucks
Mhm.
are at night. You will
Mhm.
see
Mhm.
them more,
Mm-hmm.
and in the same way in the daytime, because there is more commercial air traffic
Mm-hmm.
in the morning between
Mhm.
metro cities, and in the
Mhm.
evening again the same thing between
Mhm.
metros.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever there is a lean time, that time airports are able to allot and give more slots
Mhm.
to cargo planes.
Because
and non-scheduled operators.
Because cargo planes take more time to load the aircraft, unload the aircraft than
so ground
passenger.
time is about 3 hours.
Oh.
2 to 3 hours. I have done 2 to 3 cargo flights, and I'm not kidding. It takes forever. Like I've done the shortest flight, which is Kolkata to Dhaka, which is 30 minutes flight. Okay.
That too for A320, right?
Yes, for A320, Kolkata to Dhaka, midnight flight. So if you start at night around 10 o'clock, and cargo flights are always delayed, so it will take time to load and then secure. So 1 hour, 1.5 hour, you just sit there and you're waiting. So we are used to doing things
So
really
do you
fast.
help in loading stuff as well?
No. So
What do you do?
I've
Waiting
seen
1
the
hour?
loading I've seen loading of the crabs. I've seen
Okay.
loading of the fish and even the lot of garments and Amazon packaging
Correct.
in
Amazon Prime.
Diwali
Nothing
time.
wrong with loading done by pilots, okay? And most of the private jets loading in the Western countries is done by pilots itself, okay? Because they
It
don't have infra
depends.
to actually
It
have
depends
someone
on
ground.
how big is the airline or
Correct.
what is their requirement at
Correct.
that point.
E320 you cannot load it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's true.
From what I have heard is the cargo airlines, okay, so they buy slots from the airport, which are the cheapest.
Sure, that can be.
So
That is also possible.
so
and
generally at night these slots are cheapest. That's what I have heard. I'm not sure. Depends on the airport.
Depends on the airport. If in case that airport has more international operations at night, they might not be able to give
Okay.
slots at night, like Mumbai. And if in case the airport has a lot of empty slots at night, then they can allot at night. So especially Kolkata to Dhaka, so 30 minutes flight. And after landing in Dhaka, so total flight time include from pushback to Chokson was about 45 minutes. Now it takes another 15-20 minutes for them to arrive, open the door, open the cargo doors, then unload. After that, they will get the cargo, then load. And then that whole thing takes about 2.5-3 hours easily.
Oh.
So the flight time that you do is very less. And then you come back from Dhaka to Kolkata at 4-5 in the morning.
Correct.
Okay, so
Again,
you have done a duty of about 10 hours, but you have done flight time of only 1.5 hour.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that
So-
means that cargo pilots, the pilots that work for cargo companies like Blue Dart or DHL or
Amazon.
Amazon Prime, yeah.
they
Right.
end up
So
flying less hours.
right.
No, it depends on the sector they are operating. If they are operating
Yeah.
international, they get good hours.
Mm-hmm.
If
Of
they're
course.
doing domestic, then
Correct.
Yes,
sometimes they
yes,
get
absolutely.
But cargo flight for such a short distance, I don't know. Like, what's the math? If it's profitable, then they might do it. But generally, shorter cargo flights, I don't think so. Would be
So Kolkata to Dhaka
there.
is very profitable flight for them
Okay.
because
It's
from Kolkata to go to Dhaka on India-Bangladesh border there is Brahmaputra river, because of which you can't cross that river. Topography is such that you to go to that on the other
Okay.
side there is a lot of geographical
Understood.
restrictions.
Understood.
So because of the mountains, because
Okay.
of terrain, and because of that from Kolkata to northeast, the flights are like half an hour to 45 minutes. But if you have to go by bus or train, it takes more than a day. So nowadays, a lot of students are asking me the question, when is the Cadet Pilot Program going to start? And what should we do at this point? What do you think?
I mean, there is no official news about Cadet Pilot Program starting, but there are rumors that it was gonna start in November, but November passed and December is about to get over. But yeah, so there are rumors. Like I also don't know. Like we don't know when it's
We
gonna
have no
start.
clue.
But if someone is waiting for the Cadet Pilot Program, so yesterday I got a message from one of the aspiring pilot. He was like, I have done my 12 2 years ago, and I'm waiting for the Cadet Pilot Program. When it's gonna start? I was like, I don't have any idea, like when it's gonna start. But if you are simply waiting, you are wasting your time. So why not prepare for your DGCA exams? Why not apply for computer number
Correct.
and the medicals? Because that is the step one to become a pilot, irrespective of joining Cadet Pilot Program or the conventional pilot program. That is the first step you need to take. So instead of waiting, just go ahead with it, clear your exams, and whenever the Cadet Pilot program opens up, you can apply for it. And in that way, you have your medicals, you have your computer number, you already have your DGCA exams cleared, so you directly can go
Absolutely.
for your flight training.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it so happens that looking forward, it seems like going for a decision that is more safe.
Mhm.
You are inclined towards doing that. In 2020, I spoke to a person who was like, I waited for Cadet Pilot Program, but now I think I'm gonna go for conventional pathway. He started in 2020, May, June, something like that. He is in Vistara now.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. Nice.
And in 2020, many people have asked us, so many people have asked us that when will Cadet Pilot Program open,
Mhm.
right? And they still haven't started.
Yes, there are so
So-
many people who are just waiting.
Yeah, so it's
For
been
it to
2
start.
years, almost 3 years now. They haven't started, and 3 years are gone. And this guy is in Vistara now. So time is very important. Like the years that aspiring pilots waste now are the years of salary that will be deducted in future service as a captain. So if we look at it, losing 3 years on job as a captain costs approximately roughly 3 crore rupees, 2.5 to 3 crore rupees,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right?
On an average.
Because the years in service would be lesser, right?
Mhm.
The person retires at the same age,
Mhm.
right? So the guy who got started his journey in 2020, he waited, okay, but he was like, no, now like I need to go. So the moment he was ready with his finances for Cadet
Mm.
Pilot Program
Mhm.
and everything, actually that's exactly when the Cadet Pilot Program stopped. Okay. So he was like, when it'll open. He waited for a month or two, and then he still went for conventional pathway. Now he is in Vistara. He just got through Vistara like 2 months ago.
Oh,
One and a
wow.
half, 2
Wow.
months
Nice.
ago.
That's great.
Okay. And at the same time, there are people that have been waiting ever since.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So every day counts a lot. Like you tweeted that every day you're losing if you are not
Absolutely.
progressing in your career. Underestimating your time is not the best way to go about it. Right now, maybe your compensation each hour is not as much, but we get one life and limited time in it, right? And that time is never going to come back. If you are ready with everything and still the option doesn't open up, go for a conventional pathway. That's okay. There is nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely. So, as Winged Engineer rightly said, that you can get prepared with your Class 2 medical, get to EGC registration, apply for a computer number. For that, you need to do a lot of things regarding documents, like get the verification, then get the computer number application processed. It takes 45 days to get it issued, minimum. Then clear your DGC exams and get yourself prepared completely to go for flying.
Correct.
So and this entire thing which I just mentioned takes about 6 months easily.
Absolutely.
Yes. And
So-
most of the time is waiting because the documents take time from the
Yeah.
government. And if
Yes.
you're doing flying from India, then you have to wait for PVC, police verification certificate, for a month. then computer number takes around 45 days. And there is a list of things to do for the computer number, and the size of the documents has to be precise and in precise format. So after 45 days, if someone's computer number is being rejected, then again that person has to do the computer number application and wait for again 45 days. So the time is around 4 to 6 months. So if you start now, even if you are waiting for the Cadet Pilot Program, if you start now, you can save 4 to 6 months. And like Nilay told, like the sooner you start, the better.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, that is all if you are decided that you want to become pilot.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
And you have all the finances ready to go for pilot training. You have everything set for pilot training. Then finish the DGCA exams. Finish the basically class 2 medicals, class 1 medicals. Be ready. At that time, if Cadet Pilot Program is open, go for it. If not, mark a date for yourself that until this time, I will wait for Cadet Pilot Program. Or if you're ready with everything, I'd just go.
So so I got a message from an aspiring pilot that he wants to become a pilot in the USA, being an Indian citizen. And there are many people who wants to do the same. So what do you think about it?
At first, ask yourself like, why? Why? Indian aviation is growing rapidly. Okay. 1. Career progression in Indian aviation is very fast in comparison to any country that has big aviation industry like US, Russia, or China. Okay. China, Indians can't work in China. Okay. US, you need to have the green card or citizenship, right? 3rd, Russia. Okay, well, not go there. Okay. 2nd is, yes, there is a proclivity to in Indians to move to a Western country. We did go to US. We enjoyed it, right?
Yes,
like
yes,
there is no doubt about it. It's an amazing country, without a doubt. But getting a work permit as a pilot is not that easy in the US. It's really not easy. Then some would say that they want to go to Canada because getting work permit is easier, right? But in Canada, aviation industry is so small that there are so many Canadians that don't have a job after completing their CPL.
Okay.
Yeah, check for yourself. Canada has one of the highest jobless pilots. In terms of jobless, I don't mean that they don't do any jobs. They would do work. They would work in general aviation, flying Cessnas, flying the amphibians, and flying the general aviation for
Not
sure.
working as an airline pilot.
Not working as an airline pilot, because there are very few airlines in Canada. The place doesn't require too many aircraft. Actually,
because of the population.
Population is less.
Population is
right?
around 4 crores. And
Yeah.
if you consider Mumbai is around 1 crore, 1 to 1.25 crores of population.
Exactly.
And whole Canada has 4 crore of population. So imagine the number of planes required to transport passengers.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So that's why Canada, unless you want to fly the small planes for rest of your life, that's okay.
Yes,
There is
it's okay.
nothing wrong in anything. Whatever that you like doing, you do. But if we are speaking about getting to the airline fast and quick, India is the place right now. Like without a doubt, India is the place.
Yes.
Right.
Matter of the fact, in order for you to get to a cockpit on the left seat of an Airbus A320, where she is at right now, that would take 12 to 15 years if you start working as an instructor in any flight school in the US. Because you build 1500 hours, then you get airline transport pilot license. Then you work for a regionals as a trainee first officer, then first officer, then captain. Then you go to the majors as a first officer. Then you get a chance to become a captain. It would take 12 years easy. 10 to 12 years easy. Actually, airlines promote that getting to command of A320 in 12 years is fast.
There's a lot of time because in India, once you get your CPL after 200 hours, then you join as a first officer, junior first officer, then senior first officer, and then captain.
Correct.
3 to 5 years depending on the
5
nickname.
years.
Yes, what like you did
3
it in
years.
like 3 years. So yeah.
From first
Yeah.
officer release to command release. 3
Yes.
years.
Wow.
That's nice.
Yes. So in US it would take 12 to 15 years.
That
Yeah.
if they get the work permit.
Yes. And also to get into the airlines, they have to get an ATPL because US airlines, they need ATPL for which you will have to complete 1500 hours.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's say if someone goes from India to US for flight training, thinking they wants to work in the US airline. Okay.
Correct.
So once they complete their training, let's say they have 200 to 250 hours.
Correct.
Okay. And after that, they need to build 1500 hours.
Correct.
Okay. So if they do a flight instructor course in US and if everything goes according to the plan, if their visa gets approved,
Correct.
they get work permit for 1 year.
That if they have F1 category visa.
Yes, F1.
On
And
M1 we don't get
M1 we don't get it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And for F1 they need to enroll into a degree course.
yes.
So yeah. And
But if they do a degree and they do a commercial pilot training, they get work permit for 3 years.
Correct.
Because the degree's work permit is 3 years on F1.
1 year for pilots.
No, but they have done a degree, right?
Yeah, but they are seeking a job
In the field of study.
the field of aviation, right? Like as a pilot, in the capacity of pilot, not field, in the capacity of a pilot. So pilot's capacity gets only one year's work permit.
Yes, for a pilot it's just 1 year. In 1 year, around 500 hours.
Correct.
They can build. Okay.
800 max.
Max 800, but that's like flying day and night without taking any leave.
Absolutely. And one of our friend did it, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, like his visa did not get approved.
Yeah.
And
His work permit didn't get approved.
his work permit did not get approved. That's what I mentioned, that if everything goes according to the plan, then this plan, even if this plan, like if you follow everything goes according to your plan, you can only build around 500 to 800 hours, and that won't land you into the airlines in US because your work permit has already been utilized to build those hours.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is the answer to, can you be an airline pilot in US?
In short, it's a long shot. And if you want to take so many chances, just ask yourself, what's your goal actually? Like, whether your goal is to immigrate to the US or your goal is to become a pilot. Choose one, okay? These both don't have anything to do with each other. Like,
True.
Seriously. And whatever answer that you get about it, okay? Stick to it, okay? If you are willing to become a pilot, go with intention of coming back to India, okay? Finish your training, get American CPL, okay? Come back to India. India has amazing aviation industry. I'm not saying US doesn't, but for an Indian citizen, Indian aviation industry is the one, okay? If you were an American citizen, if you have American green card, any day, hands down, go to the US, enjoy, amazing, without a doubt, okay? But if you are an Indian citizen, India is the place. Be really truthful to yourself. This is only applicable for people who ask us questions that I want to go to the US for my flying and I want to settle in the US, okay? So this is addressed to only those people. So for them, simply ask yourself, what's your priority? Becoming a pilot or becoming an airline pilot or immigrating to the United States, okay? If your priority is something else than becoming a pilot, none of us are your advisors, okay? We are your we would love to help you with anything that is related to aviation, okay? Like in pilot training. But we are not immigration consultants or anything of that sort, okay? So if you want to do that, then probably you shouldn't do pilot training. You should not do pilot training. There are other opportunities to actually relocate to the US for longer periods of time. I'm not saying those are the opportunities to immigrate to the United States. And those opportunities would be doing masters in the US, like get a degree in India, do masters in the US, get a job in a tech firm. You're sorted. Like you will get extendable work permit. You're sorted, right?
Yes.
Many people do that. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, like 3 years you get an OPT, and after that,
Yeah.
once you get H1B, it gets renewed. So,
Correct.
yeah, don't mix these two things together because you won't land anywhere. Just keep your focus on one thing.
Correct.
Decide either pilot or immigration.
Correct. Yeah. So what is your priority? If you can answer that to yourself and be truthful about it, you have the answer. And if you choose becoming a pilot is your priority, then we are more than happy to help you. If your priority is something else, then someone else might be able to guide you with that. Then again, another thing is flying in Canada, or which place to fly is better. India is getting better day by day. Okay. We had horrible experience in Hyderabad, but not necessarily every school in India is bad. There are a select few that are really good in India as well. And weather in India is also good for flying.
So we talked about the student in the last episode, that how the flight school and his things were going haywire.
Correct.
So his mindset is now generalized that all flight schools in India are same. And they just want our money, but it's not like that. There are some good flight schools in India in which you can do your training as well.
Absolutely.
And get your CPL quickly, and then
Sure.
you can either choose to become an instructor in India, get your ATPL, and then move to the airlines.
Correct.
Or you can directly go for a type rating and then move to the airlines.
Mhm.
Either way, it's your choice.
Correct. So yeah, even I think like when we visited many flight schools in India, there are a few that are
Yes,
really
yes.
good. Correct. Without a doubt. The only point is, after having our fingers burnt in Hyderabad, it is obvious for students to feel that flight schools in India are a scam. Like, I mean, we felt like that ourselves. So we had to choose that flight school because there was a tie-up of our US flight school to that flight school. So we had to do our conversion from there. Had it been in any other circumstances, we would not have gone to that flight school at all. The name used to be big, and the flight school's infrastructure right now is one wooden table and 2 aircraft at that base. That's pretty much it.
To summarize it all up.
That's their infrastructure, and their name is so big, like they're global company or something, but it's definitely not. Okay. And we are not talking about L3 Harris. L3 Harris is an amazing company and amazing flight school, without a doubt. Okay. And about flight training in the US, it's amazing, without a doubt. If you can afford, you should. And I would say I highly recommend even to go to the US.
Because the training infrastructure
Correct.
is so amazing. You feel like you're in an airline only, because the number of aircrafts, you don't go to the same airport again and again.
Exactly.
There are so many airports around the training location that you visit a new airport every day. And whenever you visit a new airport, you learn a couple of new things, and then the infrastructure used for instrument flying is very advanced.
Very good. Like we used to take off from Class Charlie Airport every single day,
Yes.
Class Delta airports many times, and from Sanford, as we would take off after 1600 feet, we'll get into Class Bravo and comply to all the requirements of Class Bravo. That was amazing, right? That is less likely to be experienced in India, Indian flying. Like we'd do RNAV approaches in the US. Every single day in time building, we would go instrument flying, because in case the weather goes bad or something. And once you learn instrument flying, I think instrument flying is way more comfortable
Yes.
than VFR
Of
flying,
course,
right?
yeah.
So what you used to enjoy, like instrument flying or
Instrument
VFR?
flying.
Instrument flying, right?
So
yeah.
for us, our TCO was designed in such a way that after instrument, we have to do over the 50-hour PIC cross countries. So we used to file an IFR flight plan, and then we used to select. We were given a list of airports to select, and that we
Yeah.
used to select, and then we used to go to that airport, then land the plane, ask them for refueling, and there would be a pilot lounge where we used to have
Yeah.
proper food and rest for like half an hour and stuff, and then we used to fly the aircraft back. So that was kind of an operation, right?
Absolutely.
Going to the
Right.
city and coming back.
Absolutely.
So once we land, we top up the fuel, and then we file the IFR flight plan back to the school.
Correct,
Okay, and then we
correct.
check the weather, we call the controller and all, and so it's like planning the flight to a destination and then
Correct.
coming back.
Correct.
So the flying infrastructure in US is without a doubt amazing, without a doubt. Okay, not only with respect to the flight school, but also with respect to the facilities at the airport, ILS approaches, RNAV approaches, you name it, it has it. That kind of flying environment was there. In India, yeah, we are getting there slowly. Okay, so there are advantages of flying in the US definitely over flying from India, but ultimately you get the same CPL. Okay, whoever flies from India gets the same Indian pilot license as whoever flies from abroad. Airlines are not gonna discriminate. Do airlines discriminate at the time of recruitment?
Unless that particular flight school is completely blacklisted, or
Correct.
if that
Okay.
flight school is known for some scams,
Like flying from Philippines.
like flying from Philippines, or a particular flight school where they know that there has been a problem, then they would ask certain questions to take certain objections about the flying.
Correct.
But otherwise, as long as it's done from a good flight school,
Correct.
whether it's in India or abroad, it's taken equally.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And one more thing about flying in US, that whenever we used to go to a new airport and we used to sit in the pilot's lounge, there would be various pilots sitting there, and
Absolutely.
we communicate with them, and then we ask them which plane do you fly, and if that aircraft, if that person is flying a business jet or private jet, and if we ask them, is the plane around, and can we visit the cockpit, and
Yeah.
they are very like they come with us, they show the cockpit, and
True.
they used to give the tour of the plane, their
True.
business jet, whatever it
yeah.
is. And you meet amazing people in the launch and you become friends. So you build a network in the aviation
Absolutely.
industry.
Absolutely. So whatever that you think, if you wanna save some money and give your money to India, fly from India. If you wanna have good experience of flying, okay, better experience of flying, then go to the US. It's your choice. Don't go to Philippines, okay? Prefer not going to South Africa. US is amazing. Canada is okay too. Weather is a little bit of a problem. Whole winter months, it's ice cold, so it becomes
Yeah.
really difficult. And there is a massive truck problem in Canada. So as long as you are a disciplined person, you should be good to go to the Western states. Otherwise, stay in India. And about traveling, if you are thinking of going to a Western country for your flying just because you wanna travel to other place, that's a good reason. But as a pilot in your lifetime, you will be traveling so many places every single month, right? Like,
Yes, absolutely.
how many layovers usually you have in a month?
In a month, it depends upon the roster, but about 4 layovers, 4 to 6 layovers.
And how many of
max.
those are international layovers?
At least 1 or 2.
1 or 2,
Yeah.
right? So you will experience that life as a pilot in your lifetime. It's not like you're missing out on something. You're not. Keep the priority that you want to become a pilot and airline pilot, okay?
Absolutely.
Rest all distractions, don't value them so much. That would be my 2 cents. And yeah, that's how I looked at this. I looked at it. Rest, whatever you feel good is good for you.
Yeah, if you want to become a pilot, okay, fix your goal that you want to become a pilot. Work towards your goal each and every day. Improve by at least 1% a day, and then
Yeah, sure.
yeah, eventually, let's say in 1 to 2 years, if you have worked consistently, then you'll definitely reach your goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that'll be all for today. And as usual,
Yeah. If you
Lovely.
are an aspiring pilot, sign up on CNTAAonline.in, and we are here to help you if you want to become a pilot.
absolutely. CNTA is India's #1 online on-demand ground training for aspiring pilots. We provide you with everything that is needed for you to not only pass the DGCA exams, but we build a foundation for your pilot career where Capt.Neha herself teaches you. Okay. If you are looking for a contact class, CNTAA has a training center in Mumbai. So yeah, we would
Yes.
be happy to welcome you there as well. And be in touch. Thank you for watching, and thank you for joining us in this conversation. If you have any other questions, please put those in comments because that'll give us topics to discuss.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you
See you
very
in the
much.
next one.
And if you aren't subscribed already and you are an aspiring pilot, we have a problem. Okay, like, share, subscribe. Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're the